Hello everyone, GM. Welcome back to another episode of Overpriced JPEGs. It is time for your Wednesday interview, and I say this every week, but truly I am so excited for y'all to hear this conversation. My guest today is the one, the only, Luca Netz, CEO of Pudgy Penguins. And unless you've been living under a rock for the last 24 hours, you have probably seen the Pudgy Penguins just recently had a huge announcement, which is that over the next 6 weeks, Pudgys will be sold in 2,000 Walmarts across the country. But it's not just that Pudgy Penguins are going to be sold or found on the shelves of Walmart. They are a part of Walmart's Pallet program, which means that bespoke Pudgy Penguin displays will exist in essentially the middle of Walmart, in some of the most coveted real estate in Walmarts, with their own, as I said, unique bespoke display, really calling attention to them. So Luca makes the case that this is not just a big win for Pudgys, but that this is actually a huge win for the space as a whole. Every single one of these toys comes with a QR code that you can scan and get a digital twin of. There's a whole broader play, this whole new world, a brave new world that Pudgys has been teasing that is part of this as well. We get into what all of this means, how this came to be, and really what the future vision that Pudgys is building towards. Like, if this pallet program with Walmart is successful, what is next? I think this is one of the bigger announcements to come out of NFTs in quite some time. I'm incredibly excited about it. I'm just so excited for you to hear Luca unpack this. I think you will walk away as stoked as I was conducting this interview. But before we get into this conversation, a couple quick notes. First, our final overpriced happy hour for all OPJ NFT holders is happening in New York on October 11th, and our special guest is the one and only Raul Pal. I love Raul. He's been on the podcast before. He will be live and in person in New York with me. All OPJ NFT holders and Real Vision NFT holders. Y'all can go to opjtour.com now to reserve your seats for this awesome event. Get all the details, timing, locations, etc. And if you are an OPJ NFT holder, you know this. You can now go to the link in the show notes or the link in my Twitter bio and redeem your OPJ NFT for a bottle of overpriced gin. Go do that now. Thank you for all your patience waiting for the gin. It's been so much fun seeing folks posting about the gin on Twitter. And with that, we're going to hear a word from our amazing sponsors who make this show possible, and then on to my conversation with Luca Netz. Y'all know the phrase, not your keys, not your crypto. Well, in a world where too many people have had to learn that the hard way, Overpriced JPEGs is proud to partner with Ledger, the world leader in critical digital asset security. Ledger's Nano S Plus and Nano X hardware wallets, paired with the Ledger Live app, Ledger's own software for setting up your Nano device and managing your crypto assets, is the easiest way to start your crypto journey while maintaining full control of your digital assets. You can use all your favorite dApps with Ledger Live, accessing 15 plus Web3 apps, including 1inch, Paraswap, Lido, and Zerion. So you can not only manage, but also grow your portfolio. And Ledger Live is available on mobile and desktop. Securing digital assets shouldn't be complicated. Ledger is as easy as it gets. Uncompromising security, effortless connectivity, full transparency, Ledger is your one-stop shop to trade and track crypto, grow your assets, and manage NFTs. Secure your future with Ledger. Visit shop.ledger.com today or check out the link in the show notes. I am so excited to announce that this year, Overpriced JPEGs has partnered with OPENSEA, the world's leading NFT marketplace, built for everyone, creators, collectors, noobs, and experts alike. I'm an OPENSEA user because they have the best selection of NFTs and a truly inclusive view of the ecosystem, supporting 8 chains and 8 global languages. I trust the systems they've put in place to keep the space safe, like copy mint protection, malicious URL detection and removal, robust verification, and more. It's why they are the place to buy, sell, and create NFTs. That's right. You know OPENSEA, you use OPENSEA, but did you know that OPENSEA now has drops? New exclusive projects launch every week from top projects and creators, and you can check them out now using the link in the show notes. They also recently introduced self-serve drops, which is in beta, and allows creators to launch their projects right on OPENSEA. This drops product gives creators access to tools like rich storytelling drop pages, multi-chain support, and drop mechanic customization. The full launch for self-serve drops is coming this spring. So check out the upcoming drops on OPENSEA right now using the link in the show notes and own what moves you. You'll also be supporting the show in the process. Luca, welcome back to Overpriced JPEGs.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me back.
I'm so excited to have this conversation. I always love talking to you. And of course, you have some big announcements that have just come out, and I want to dive right into all of it. So I want to start, obviously, big announcement out yesterday that it's 2,000 stores. You have pallets of Pudgy penguins being rolled out in 2,000 stores. They're these like big, beautiful displays, very prominent. Explain to me a little bit what this exactly is and what this means, and the kind of context I want to give to tee you up for this is the last time you were on this show, you were very cognizant of not wanting to get too big too fast. And one of the things you said specifically was like, you gave Walmart as the example of sometimes Walmart can kill a brand and it can be too big too fast. Give us the context here and why is now actually the right time for you and for Pudgys to go into Walmart?
Yeah, this is a fascinating question. I'm kind of happy you led with this. One thing that was kind of present about 6 months ago, I flew to Bentonville and we actually documented this whole thing. So for those of you guys who are not familiar, the documentary is live on our YouTube channel, Building in Public. And so you can kind of watch our thought process as to why we kind of made this decision. You definitely want to be conscious of, overflooding the market with supply of toys and product. And I think for us, it really came down to an inflection point around the narrative around Web3. And I think that is kind of what led us to making the decision. And so traditionally, if you kind of peel back the layers, and again, this is also prior to our Amazon release, but if you peel back the layers and kind of understand, where the space is today, I mean, the space is in a dire position. And somebody has to reinvent the narrative and kind of have to take us from this like dark pit of despair. And somebody has to do something big and meaningful to like bring this narrative of NFTs are the future and our brands and are the consumer facing products for the crypto and blockchain industry. And somebody has to take a risk and make a move. And so on that side, we also kind of relayed the success of our Amazon launch, and it was way more successful than I thought it was. And so just kind of understanding the pull that we have in the industry, how explosive our social content and our brand appeal in places like Comic-Con and just places that we've put the brand in front of and have seen the type of reaction, I felt like just warranted a moment to kind of take a risk, not only just for Pudgy Penguins, but for the rest of the industry. By the nature of this program, it's a ton of toys, right? It's like, I think just over 800,000 toys that are kind of going, individual units that are going live across all of these different stores. Will there be a couple stores that don't sell through every unit? Probably. Will there be, a couple toys that might go into different sections of the store? Probably. But at the end of the day, what we have is, I think we have a brand that people love. People love penguins. People love our ethos. People love, I think, what we're about. And this isn't just a toy on a shelf, right? If this was a toy on a shelf, I think it would be a different understanding and a different positioning. What kind of made me move the needle here was, one, how passionate Walmart was about being on the forefront of what I like to coin this digital revolution, and them backing us with this type of real estate.
Explain this. I want you to get at this. This is like part of like this Pallet program, which is a very specific thing, it seems like, that Walmart does. So yeah, I think you're getting into it now. Explain this.
Yeah, this is probably the second most prestigious, piece of real estate that Walmart can give you. I think like the only thing that gets more prestigious is probably, a full cap that, maybe a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or somebody can pull off. But this is a la a program that Hello Kitty and Star Wars and every other, major global multi-billion-dollar brand is a part of. New brands emerging into the market never get this program. And I think anybody who understands retail or consumer products, and specifically the toy and IP business, can attest to this. This is not a program that new brands are given. And so thinking about our growth and what we've been able to accomplish over the last year, being able to get basically a giant billboard in half of the Walmarts across the United States, which get over 180 million, individual visits on a weekly basis, like that is not something that I can just turn down and say no to. Now, if this was just a toy on a shelf baked into, 30 other toys, I probably would have made a different decision. But the fact that Walmart said, hey, we believe in this brand, we believe in you, we believe in this technology, we believe in this thesis of, changing the toy industry and being innovative and, not being archaic and dinosaurs, which is basically what the IP and toy business has been for many, many years, and saying, we're going to give you, not just a place in the store, but a half pallet, in the pallet program section, I think is not to be underestimated. Just the awareness and the psychological touch points that I think you and I talked about, like that alone is worth any risk, because millions of people are going to be exposed to the Pudgy Penguins brand that had no clue about us before because of that program.
So I want to ask about how the relationship with Walmart started, like how we progressed to this point and how those conversations have gone. But just on that psychological level, explain this. So you said you would have turned this down if it was just toys on a shelf with a bunch of other toys. Because why? Because that could have harmed the brand? Like, what would that have done that would be negative versus neutral, whereas this is positive?
I think it would have created too much pressure for us to single-handedly move all of the units, wherein a program like this, almost, half of the units almost kind of move themselves, right? It's a program that creates an incredible amount of trust. It's a program that creates an incredible amount of credibility. And it's one that also gives the consumer the easiest access to buy, right? Versus me, being a toy on a shelf, having to convince somebody that between Barbie and Pokemon and all of the rest, you have to put your hand in between all of these toys to go and grab mine.
Yeah.
A lot more of a difficult task for us specifically versus, Walmart does half of the work for us here.
It's putting the lift on you versus sharing the lift with Walmart, which is a huge difference. And then, and when we talk about brands, we talked about this a bunch in the last podcast episode, like, again, brands can go too big, too fast. It can actually be a brand killer. Is that because they'll get themselves in a Walmart, but then it doesn't sell? And then where can the brand go for there? How do you raise more money? How do you, suddenly now you're kind of stuck because you haven't, and is that what ultimately kills the brand if you've done that without having the scope and scale and fandom to support it?
I've learned over the last 6 months, caveats to that. I think there's an angle there that is true. I think going to Asia recently and kind of understanding that, you can be made in one region and not make it in another. And so to say that a brand lives and dies by the success of something, just by nature and how many units, after this program is basically a 6-week program, the goal and the objective here is to sell through 70 to 80% of the units. Like, that is realistic sell through in a program like this. To say that there isn't going to be, a toy in a couple stores around the country that may have to go to a clearance aisle is that's very feasible, right? There's a ton of toys, and I can sell out the major metropolitan areas, but to say that the Walmart in Arkansas that maybe doesn't have the most penguin friendly demographic, right? To say that there might not be some units that go there, that's just a part of the program, though, right?
Sure.
You kind of sign up for this.
And so so for 6 weeks, these will be all in the stores for 6 weeks, and you're looking to move, call it 640,000 penguin toys in those 6 weeks.
Yep. And then after the 6 weeks, they go on shelf, and depending on which units they are, some of the units have a modular, some don't. So the units that have a modular will go directly amongst a Pokemon and a Hello Kitty. And then our igloos that don't have a modular will probably get sent to clearance, where we'll just impulse buy at the end of checkout.
What does a modular mean?
A modular is just basically how where the items are actually positioned in terms of if they have a
thematic home almost within Walmart.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. Well, there's truly there's obviously a whole new world which you announced as well. There's truly so much to get into in this conversation. But let's go back to what I was saying, which is, so how did this conversation start? It's exciting to hear that Walmart is really bought into this. Did you approach them? I know you've worked with Walmart in the past, in your past business lives. Did you have that relationship and start talking to them as soon as you took over Pudgys, and this has been an ongoing conversation? Did they come to you? Walk us through this evolution.
Yeah, so this has been a dream of mine ever since we bought Pudgy Penguins. Coming off of Gel Blaster, one of the huge revenue drivers for Gel Blaster is the business that we do with Walmart. And just seeing the success and how successful that was for Gel Blaster, it was a place that I wanted to go to for a long time. And so we signaled it in our roadmap when we announced it, right when we took over, and we labeled it a Brave New World. And if you notice in that image, there's a boat with a giant box on the back of it, kind of signaling a big box. And that was kind of the plan, was the Brave New World would be, where no other NFT project and where blockchain has never really gone before, which is in the shelf of the world's biggest retailer. And that was like kind of my thesis. I knew since day one that we had to reinvent the world that is the NFT world. I just knew it. I saw it when I came into this industry. It's one of the reasons why we bought Pudgy Penguins, is because I was so frustrated by the lack of deliverables and the lack of vision that this industry had, that I wanted to come in and do what I knew was inevitably the right way of doing things. Now, today, it seems very clearly that we are on that path. But at the time, it was very much a brave new world. It was a place that I felt like nobody was looking. When we took this over and when we kind of placed this into our roadmap, it was, a world that was plagued with just like, let's meet people digitally where they are not, and let's just extract liquidity from the 50,000 users that are still here. And for me, a brave new world symbolized, going outside of the echo chamber and not looking inward and just looking outward, because that's where the success is really going to come from. That's where, NFT, value and first edition model and where your brand is really going to thrive and succeed over the long term, that's where it's going to come from. It's going to come from looking outwards and not inwards. And that's really what a brave new world symbolized for us. Now, like you said, there's a lot more meat there than just entering, a brave new destination for Web3 and the blockchain. There's a deeper, thing here where we're alluding to this, bigger world that's going to unlock once we sell out of toys in Walmart. And so for those of you who are not familiar, why I think this is so special is because it's not just NFT IP on the world's biggest retailer. It's not just the story of, every one of these toys being licensed from our community, which is the Web3 ethos, right? But it's also blockchain on the shelves of the biggest retailer, because every toy basically has a QR code that when you scan, you unlock NFTs through a gasless and free experience. And then these NFTs can now be put onto your 3D Pudgy Penguin, and you can now walk around with it and use it and customize it and explore and socialize with it. Now, when Walmart sells out, again, our whole thing with the Brave New World was it's not a destination, it's a journey. And this is very much the beginning of a journey that is going to unlock over the next couple of months, depending on how fast we can sell these Walmart toys, but kind of bring you into a whole new universe, which is ultimately the Pudgy Penguin universe. And so this kind of leads into our storytelling initiatives and really building a global IP brand.
So you're giving the context for, I think, what Walmart is excited about. So let's double down on this, and then maybe we'll circle back to how it all came to be. But so You're doing something that I absolutely love, and that I think is not dissimilar to what a Cryptoys has been getting at, which is a project I've talked about a lot historically on the show, because I really like, or a company, because I really like Cryptoys as well and their approach. But you're executing on it in a slightly different way, and you've got the physical toys to start, which I think is really interesting. And so you're bridging Club Penguin. Is the end state of this a bridge of Club Penguin and physical toys to some degree, where your penguin now becomes a little digital penguin that can go around and socialize with the other penguins and play little games. And I can't even remember what else I did in Club Penguin, but that's sort of what you're describing here, right? I think it's
our version of Webkinz meets a Penguin World meets a Farmville type of experience.
Okay. It's
Webkinz because you buy the toy and you unlock these skins, and these skins just happen to be NFTs and built around Web3 and the blockchain. Club Penguin, I guess, is an interesting one because we're a penguins and penguin universe, and so there's definitely some similarities, I guess, through that context. And then Farmville-esque because, the whole purpose of this is exploring and socializing and gathering resources and, doing your whole thing through that portal. And so it's kind of a blend, right? But basically, how do we meet consumers where they are and give them products that they're familiar with that are just very simple, fun, and easy to kind of come across? It's kind of the purpose of the whole back end here.
And so one question I have, as I've started to understand the toy world a little bit better and the plushie world a little bit better, and we talked about David Horvath last time, and I certainly have learned a lot from him, is the idea of play patterns, right? And so Gel Blasters would be a play pattern toy. That was a style of play that people were drawn to, as opposed to just, again, it's a Star Wars toy and people like it because they love that IP and they love that character. So has that come up in the conversation with Walmart of this is a new, or is it not new? Is this a like a different kind of play pattern toy that you're selling in some way, which is that you get this thing, you tag it, and you get these NFT, now it can move around this digital world. Like, is that how you and Walmart are seeing this?
Yeah, it's definitely multifaceted, but I think if you're going to lean into what side of the spectrum we lean on, it's definitely more of a play pattern, right? Like, I think what I'm trying to do ultimately is I'm just trying to push this space forward and break a barrier and break a stigma. And to just sell toys, I think, is not really our objective. Our objective is also to onboard people without them really knowing or understanding
what they are.
What they are. And I think that's like the beauty of it. And that's the story
Totally.
about it. To say that this is like solely lives and dies by its ability to be a character brand that's not the ethos. And I think if that was, I'd be in a different spot. Right? I don't think it would be the right decision. There's multiple hooks to these toys, right? Whether it's through the blind boxes, through the blind igloos, or the blind clip-on plush, or the NFTs. You know, with Walmart, there's specific golden tickets that go inside that unlock special NFTs if you can kind of get lucky and find the right one, right? So there's multiple hooks and multiple play patterns here, but that, I think, is the narrative around Web3 and around NFTs. You know, if you wanted to create just a character brand, right? Unfortunately, the nature of this space doesn't have 20 years for you to build a character brand the right way. And I think that's kind of the conundrum is if you want to build a character brand, you probably should just go build a character brand and 20 years from now, lean into NFTs and lean into Web3 or 15 years from now. And I think it's, you know, incorporating Web3 via character brand is probably better positioned for already established character brands.
Yeah.
The whole like narrative that you're going to launch NFTs and that you're going to take 30 years because building a true, genuine character brand, it requires so much nitty gritty and so much trench work that it's a beautiful way to build, but it's a way that quite literally takes an unbelievable amount of time that NFT holders don't have.
Yes, and it's fairly unconducive to like the building in public, like constantly having deliverables for holders. Like holders don't want to sit quietly while you sit quietly to like get yourself in just the right stores and sort of have this like slow growth. They want to see poppy big announcements. And so, yeah, that makes total sense. So, and perhaps this is obvious, and you're obviously, I'm sure I'm excited about this. I can't imagine anybody listening to this is not excited to hear everything you've said so far. What is Walmart most excited about with this? How did the conversation progress to the point where they're like, yeah, we love this Pallet program, we're going to shoulder 50% of the burden of getting these things sold because we're going to give it such amazing real estate?
Yeah, this was an interesting one. So I flew to Bentonville about 7-8 months ago. We talked, we got them familiar, met with a couple of the toy buyers, got them familiar with the product. We, had a little bit of interest. Conversations didn't really go very far, post 2 or 3 months afterwards. And then I forget who the celebrity was, but somebody, an influencer of mine named Party Shirt, who has like 20 million followers on TikTok, posted us on their socials. And the senior vice president of merchandise at Walmart is close with Party Shirt. They kind of work to kind of promote products within Walmart. And then she reached out and said, hey, like, I like the brand, I like what you guys are doing on social. And then we revisited the conversations. After a couple of follow-up convos, I told them how adamant I was that this was what I believe to be the future of the toy business. And I totally believe that, by the way, with every bone in my body. And, the beauty about Walmart is they're very entrepreneur oriented. They're very American dream oriented. And I think just the story of Pudgy Penguins, the story of how we got here, the growth and the ability just kind of to do this against all odds, I think is something they really believed in and really rallied behind. I think the nail in the coffin was the fact that we were able to back up this story and back up this narrative with a huge, Amazon launch. We were basically number one on Amazon for 3 days before we ran out of inventory and sold over $500,000 in units. And I think that kind of solidified the toy thesis. They probably didn't pull the trigger on us prior because we hadn't really proven it in a meaningful way outside of digital and social. And I think that was kind of the moment where, they believed and said, hey, they're crushing it on digital, they're crushing it on social. There's an amazing story here that Walmart is all about. Walmart is all about the American dream and helping the little guy and the underdog, which I think we very much are. And they saw the results on Amazon and said, hey, look, it's finally time to pull the trigger. And the beauty about Walmart is they're taking this side of the world, this technology, digital revolution, Web3, metaverse. they're taking this very seriously. I don't think people understand how seriously they're taking this, and kudos to them. Because like at some point you have a responsibility to shareholders and people who are a part of your business and believe in you to innovate. And I think they have a really innovative mindset, more so than I think people give them credit for. And so for them, this is about just trying new things and getting involved with what is ultimately going to be the future. I think like anybody who thinks this is not going to be the future, I think is gravely mistaken. And I think this is just them being forward thinking and trying to be ahead of the trend and to create the trend rather than following the trend, which is a majority of these huge companies just do.
That makes total sense, and it's exciting to hear, honestly. What are you guys doing to support this? We talk about there's like sort of, 50% is being shouldered by Walmart in some ways just by virtue of where they're putting you. 50% of the marketing or whatever the percent is, right? It still falls on Pudgys. Obviously, we got into this last time, sort of the playbook that you've run throughout your career, but let's get a little bit more specific on what that looks like for this particular 6-week Pallet run. What are you all doing to make sure that you're doing everything you can to push these out the stores?
Yeah, this is going to be our first real marketing run, right? I've been saying this for a while, but obviously I think what I can do to galvanize the crypto and the NFT folks, I think this is just a moment. One thing that I think is important is this is a moment not just for Pudgy Penguins. This is a moment for Web3. This is a moment for the blockchain. This is not only an endorsement on Pudgy Penguins and the brand, this is an endorsement on the technology and the fact that they believe that this is the future, right? If they didn't believe, maybe they would throw me in a crevice somewhere and just say, I hope you sell it, kid. But they're putting this stuff, smack dab in the middle of the store where everybody who goes to a Walmart that day, 80% of them will see it. And, this is not just, toys on a shelf. This is, hey, you buy this toy and you sign up, via this QR code and you're now have a blockchain wallet. Like this is that. And so I think there's a multitude of different areas here, from a celebrity, influencer, paid ad, masterclass, pounding those pavements there. I think we've got almost $1 million that we're going to spend here. We are going to lean into the press machine and the media machine. We've got some amazing partners. ZK Sync, who's now a part of this with us, is supporting us in a really big way. I really love kind of their cadence around how they're supporting this initiative. I'm really just giving it my all on this one. And so pulling out all the stops, all the things I know how to do, and hopefully it works out the way we want it to.
Press, social media, combination of paid and organic. Yeah, the influencers.
I can't.
Your Harry Jousies.
I can't.
Your David Dobrik's.
Yeah.
Okay.
The gamers. I can't give you more than that, right? But
okay.
You'll be able to see it.
I had a number of questions that came up as you were talking, but one I want to make sure we get to is let's get a little technical. Talk to me about what's happening on the back end here. Folks come, they buy the toy in Walmart, they scan the QR code, they're getting spun up automatically a blockchain wallet, but obviously you want to abstract all of that away as much as possible. Who are the vendors? Like, who are you working with on all of that?
Yeah, so kind of give you the flow, it kind of works like this. You buy a toy at Walmart, you take it home, you unpack it, and inside there's a birth certificate somewhere. On that birth certificate, there's a QR code. When you scan that QR code, it basically gives you a redemption code. So you sign up to Walmart via an email and a password, and via that email and a password, we make you a custody wallet via our custody wallet solution. So we actually made this one in-house.
It's proprietary. It's not like a Magic Wallet or one of the ones that
Magic
kind of
Link.
wow.
It was Magic Link, and now we built it ourselves. And so this now is powered by ZK Sync. So it was powered on Polygon, but we're a huge believer in ZK rollups and just the speed and the cost of how we can kind of do things at scale. And so we moved with ZK Sync. That kind of powers, that's kind of the blockchain that is powering this whole initiative. So kudos to ZK Sync for also being,
it's a big win for them.
It's a big win for them. Now, not only are Pudgy Penguins on the shelves of or have a Pallet program in the world's biggest retailer, but now it's also ZK Sync. So shout out to them. And basically, when they're in Pudgy World, they have their account via their email and their password. They'll go and redeem the NFTs via the code that they were given when they scanned the QR code. And so once they redeem it, they basically go through a gasless experience, no cost to them. And then, they basically redeem their 3 to 5 NFTs, which they can then customize on their own Pudgy Penguin. Now, what will happen is, for the sake of returns, we are locking the buying and selling of these NFTs for 30 days. Because what I don't want is what we found with Amazon is some people were buying it and then sending us 100 igloos back after they scanned all the QR codes. So that's not going to happen on this one. I got to jump ahead of that. And we're working on a proprietary solution to solve that but what people don't know, and we'll get into in a sec, I had 100 days from basically this moment to when Walmart said they wanted to do this, which if you understand the logistical lift and the technological lift to pull this off in 100 days, it's kind of why Pudgy Penguins went on a hiatus. We were just like, unbelievable turnaround to make that many units on that many pallets and get it over on a boat, which takes 30 days in that short amount of time. Just shout out to the entire team to kind of pull it off. But long story short, we'll get into that in a sec. You customize it, you throw it around, you can play a bunch of different mini games. So we have, Pudgy Roads, we have chess, we have a jump game, and then you also can go into this lobby. And so in this lobby, you can interact with other people, you can talk, you can kind of see that you can climb in this like up only style area and mountain. And if you get to the top, there's some lore and some interesting Easter eggs and some alpha that other people will not be able to get. But at the center of this lobby is this mound with this door that's basically pulsating. And above it is a countdown timer or a progress bar. And basically what's happening here is if and when Walmart sells out of inventory, that progress bar will be full and that door will open. And so the anticipation is you bought this toy, you signed up to this account, you unlocked your NFTs at no cost to you, you've customized it on this 3D Pudgy, you've played some games, you've made some friends, and now you're in this lobby kind of hanging around, meandering, socializing, and ultimately waiting for this bar to complete, which will then open you up to our world. So that will be kind of
to a whole new world.
To a whole new world.
Let me introduce you to a brand new company that I could not be more excited about. Web3 Sense. A Web3 analytics platform that combines on-chain data with social media insights to give you the deepest, most meaningful intelligence into any NFT community. I have tested other analytics platforms out there, but Web3 Sense has the most comprehensive capabilities I've seen in the NFT ecosystem. They apply sophisticated data science to wallet histories to determine behavioral patterns and help shape predictive analytics. In other words, they can tell you which Twitter accounts are actually the influencers in your space. And they can tell you what resonates most within a community by looking at what other communities token holders are involved in. The number of use cases here is virtually unlimited. So whether you're a trader, creator, institution, brand, agency, I promise Web3 Sense has data that you want to see with the deep and actionable insights that you need to build, analyze, grow, start, whatever you want to do within the NFT space and in terms of building a business and a community. Now, they are still in very early days, so they're eager to connect with the community. So if you're interested in learning more about what Web3 Sense can do for you and your business, and you should be, go and fill out the very short form linked to in the show notes, and someone from their team will reach out with more information and an opportunity for a product demo. Trust me, you won't regret it. Okay, this is one small semantic question. So and I remember us talking about this last time, because this is how you did the Amazon, obviously, sales. You had or maybe we didn't talk about it, but I saw it on one of your videos. But anyways, the birth certificate piece. Is there also an NFC tag in the penguins' bellies?
So we're gonna lead into that, but we're not gonna do that just yet. The cost on the NFC tags are incredibly expensive, at least through third parties. And so we're working on that internally to kind of scale that up. We want to pivot. We're going to make some serious product pivots on a physical product side moving into the new year. We're just going to kick it up a whole entire notch. I think, for us to really succeed is how much of a bar can we kind of, step it up. One thing that I am conscious of is at the end of the day, the cheapest product in Walmart is a couple bucks or, $3, $4. And so, but the story here and what we kind of want to tell is the fact that, for $4, you can basically experience NFTs in Web3. Like, how beautiful is that?
So explain that. Are these selling for $4?
Yeah, the igloos are selling for $4.
Oh, the igloos are $4. And then what are the penguins?
So those are 8, 9, 15, 8, 10, 15. So the thing is with Walmart, you have to give them the best price. This is key. So Walmart won't do it if you don't give them the absolute best price, so the best price possible. And so I was thinking about it. I was like, okay, well, am I kind of cutting myself short? Probably on margin. But at the end of the day, the story really that I want to tell here is the fact that, hey, for basically a couple dollars, give or take, you can now be a part of NFTs and Web3, which, like, if you kind of peel back the layers there and understand that, that's a really beautiful story.
Yeah, this is perfect. I actually, when I put out to people that I was going to have a conversation with you, and obviously people not knowing that you had this announcement coming when I was saying that I was going to interview you, so I was just asking, like, what do people want me to ask Luca about? margin was actually something that came up a couple of different times. You have said previously, I believe, that y'all are on track to make $10 million in revenue this year. Does that predate this Walmart activation? Like, are those numbers totally different now with this Pallet program?
No, that's based on what I knew when I said that Walmart was going to launch the Pallet program.
Okay, so you knew that going into this. And so I'm curious, like, are you willing to share more about margin and how that's looking? And like, if you have 10 million in revenue this year, like, what does the bottom line look like?
Yeah, I think you kind of have to like kind of extract the layers here. So 10 million in retail sales is retail sales. I don't absorb that. And so let's say there's let's say there's 35% margin from what I wholesale to what I retail, or call it 40% probably, kind of assume. So that would be, let's call it $6.5 million in revenue to the company. And then you have, then you have PMI toys, you have partners, you have margin on the actual cost of goods. The toy business is not a business that I'm going to go make, net hundreds of millions of dollars on realistically. Like, I'm conscious of this, but it does give us a forecastable growth pattern, which is kind of what I told you last time we spoke, which is, okay, in a perfect world, I can probably net 2.5. Is that NFT mint money? No. Is that covering my bottom line and my burn? Yes. Right. And so can I scale and can I double that and triple that and quadruple that next year and 10x that the year after? Totally. And that just gives me a path to success and a growth pattern of success. Is it huge net margin? No, it's not selling NFTs on the blockchain, but we need less of that and more of this.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So what I hear you saying is like, look, this is good to keep us a sustainable business right now, because we knew royalties were going away and we knew we needed to find a way to build that sustainable business. What is the path to to super profitability here? Like, will it ultimately come in product sales just at a certain scale? Will it come from, the IP, like, being able to like charge a markup because the IP is so powerful? Is it like Hollywood movies? Like, give us a sense of how these businesses work in the long term. Yeah,
I think the money really comes in here when I build a brand that's so familiar and that people love so much, which I think naturally they do when they see it because the penguin's so awesome, that ultimately the licensing business is the place where the floodgates really open. And so licensing is awesome because what I can basically do is I can take this character that has all of this success, that has retail success, that has social success, that has digital revenue success, and I can basically say, hey, you have a pajama, or you have a bed sheet, or you have a lunchbox, or a backpack, or a cup, or a plate. By putting our Pudgy penguins on these products, you will sell more of them, and they'll basically give me 10 to 20% of top line gross, and then I'll basically just be a debt collector, and every quarter collect my checks. And this is how Sanrio and Hello Kitty make tens of billions of dollars a year, and
with great margin. With all margin.
At that point, it becomes all margin, right? And so what I'm doing now is I'm just proving the thesis. I'm proving the fact that by this Pudgy penguin character is selling. It is a revenue driving character. And based on that, we have more and more inquiries of people wanting to place their, our penguin on their products, in which I go to the community, right? So this is not just Luca's success. Every time we do one of these things, I say, okay, they want to pay us 10% on this. I'll go and get a community member. We'll use their penguin for this product, and I'll give the community member 1%, right? And then all of a sudden it becomes a mutually beneficial relationship of participants. And so, everyone's like, well, Luca, how are you going to get to, 8,888 penguins? Well, like I told you guys before, there's only so many thousands of penguins out there that are actual participants and people who are engaged. So call it 4,000 penguins. And then when I prove more and more success, I make more products, I make more content, but then also people are coming to me saying, we want to use penguins on all of these products. And the community can go and procure that stuff themselves, because it's not just me who can reap the benefits off of that and my inbound deal flow. Eventually, the numbers will be so big that community members can go and take their penguin and monetize it, using the pitch deck that I gave them, or, some of the other resources. They can go to their own expos and leverage the growth and the success of this brand. And so that's ultimately where I think we're going to kind of hit, escape velocity here.
This program is 6 weeks long, 2,000 Walmarts. If this is successful and it sells out and Walmart's happy and the customers are happy, what does the next step from something like this look like? Do they run it again next holiday season in more Walmarts, or like where do you go from here?
Yeah, if we can sell through 75% of this stuff within the first 6 weeks, Walmart will be very happy. And if Walmart is very happy, then I'm very happy. And if everyone is very happy, it puts us in a really amazing position. So to give you some context from a licensing perspective, what Pudgy Penguins has proven is 2 of the 3 verticals. We've proven digital, right? $400 million in NFT sales, 3rd highest project now, floor price, metric, collectible, however you want to quantify it. We've proven social, 12 billion impressions now. We're getting like 50 million views a day on Giphy and Tenure, just complete awareness machine. Okay, proven that. I don't think anyone could deny that there's some sort of impact there. Whether you agree with the strategy or not, people are subtweeting me as of recently, like complaining about the strategy. But like,
I want to ask about that. That's interesting to me, but anyways, okay.
It's for the birds. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's just bird talk, old generation geezers cracking at it. So we'll leave that for another moment. But then the third one is retail, right? So you prove retail, you really have a story where it's like, you can't deny the NFT sales, really. You can't really deny the social impact. It's right there for you. And once you prove retail, I mean, we've already proven retail in some regions. Like Australia is pretty much sold out of inventory. We have something coming for Europe that's going to follow up this Walmart. It's like, call it the Walmart of toys for Europe. So that's the alpha for the show. That's coming in probably 5 or 6 days. So based on the regions and our success in those regions, we will have told a story that, Pudgy Penguins, 7 months into retail, $10 million in retail sales, that's really good, right? And I think that is going to kind of open up the floodgates and put us in a really interesting position.
So we still have to, we have to dive more into like, I want to talk a little bit more about A Brave New World and if there's anything you can give us in terms of what that opens up once we sell through. But I want to stay on this thread because I'm really interested now. So when we spoke last time, what you laid out was, I thought, a very compelling vision, which is like, look, I know what my zone of genius is, my zone of competence, and it's exactly what you've now been proving for the last X number of months since whenever that conversation happened, which is like, I know how to grow in social media. I know how to push product for like 12 months, right? And I know I can make that work. And then at a certain point, what makes it sticky beyond that is going to be like story and lore and that side of things. And that's, I think you were very like self-aware, like that's not what I've done historically. That's not my zone of genius. That's what these studios can do. But right now, these studios, I'm still talking about the vision you were laying out before. Like these studios are giving me shitty deals because I'm not important enough for the studio to give me a good deal where I'm making good money and I have like a real say in this dynamic. Is that what the next phase looks like? Is you say, okay, I've now proven on these 3 grounds, social, digital, retail. Suddenly I'm actually more of an equal player going into conversations with storytellers and studios to really start building out the IP lore universe?
Yeah, and you hit it right on the head. Every day I get more leverage, and every day I continue on this path. So every day that we continue on this path and we continue to see success is a day that leverage becomes more and more in my favor. And I'm seeing it, right? Like we have, and I haven't announced this yet, and this is, again, more alpha, again, so much respect, and I love doing interviews with you, but I've got like 15 licensing deals in the pipeline, right? So we're able to deal with Retail Monster, who's like one of the best licensing agents in the world. That stuff I'm going to go.
Didn't you work with them already, or did Doodle? No, somebody's been working with them. You worked with them.
We've been working with them since day one.
Yeah.
And so that opens up floodgates, right? And so we'll obviously translate that success to our community when we, launch our IP rights marketplace and kind of translate that over. But every day that we continue on this path and things continue to go our way is a day that I will be in a better position to kind of create these moments. Now, when it comes to story, we took a little bit of the matters into our own hands. So we hired 2, one ex-Disney guy, another that was just an independent writer, wrote for like Johnny Test and Legos of Shima, and he's honestly the best. His name is John. Shout out to John. And we've got a lot of foundational work done. And so one of the reasons and one of the things about this world is really two-faceted. One, it's a social experience. It's one where, we're going to take all our meetings in there. Like it's just, I do inner igloos every week. We're going to start taking them in the Pudgy world. But 2, it's also kind of our version of storytelling. And so to give you some context, the world that this opens up to is the Pudgy Penguin world. And rather than just like debuting a picture of the world or giving you like a long dissertation or monologue on what our world is, I'm going to let you take your character, your Pudgy Pengu, and I'm going to let you explore this world. And I'm going to let you play around in it. I'm going to let you make friends in it. And you're going to be able to see it and read it and look through the crevices and read what's on the bulletin boards and see what the towns are made up of and what the lore is. And your imagination will run wild. This is not just a moment to kind of create some underlying hook to the toy and to, kind of just bolster up that narrative. This is very much a debut of the Pudgy Penguin universe.
Laying the groundwork for what's to come.
Exactly, right? And so in 2024, our whole content strategy, everything that we're doing is going to pivot really hard into story and characters and ensemble around Pudgy Penguins. People think that I'm not paying attention to that. Like, that is the roadmap. That is the plan. But it very much is where I think things are going to get really exciting for us, because that's where I think the emotional bond is really going to get created. But in the interim, from now until the end of the year, what's really, I think, going to excite people is letting them, around Christmas time or right before Christmas time, this world opening up, or whenever it comes, honestly, because it's honestly dependent on when the Walmart units move. But, call it December 1st, people are going to be able to walk around this world and just see what this is about. And I think it's also going to set the bar for the industry, because no one has debuted a world like that. Nobody in this space has debuted a world or a lore or a universe that is so interactive and so compelling for the community and beyond. And that's what I'm really excited for.
There's a lot of pressure on that too, though. Like, these things take a long time to build. And, I guess we hear games take a long time to build. And so I don't get, you're not building a like World of Warcraft, like massively multiplayer RPG or anything like that, obviously. But like you feel confident you've had enough time, what you're going to unveil, you're unveiling it to 800,000 Walmart customers. You feel good? We're in good hands?
I feel good. And the thing is the way that I work is not how these other guys work. I think these other guys have like this unbelievable slow snail pace, unable to control a narrative. At the end of the day here, we've completely underpromised this. Nobody has any expectation of what's coming. So that's like the difference between us and them. We haven't sold people on this. There isn't like a huge weight of our shoulders of we just took and now people expect. No one has any expectation of what's coming. And so I think as long as it's awesome, we'll set a bar.
When did you make that decision, by the way? Because that's obvious. It's super noticeable. It's like the first thing I thought when I knew we were going to have this conversation is you haven't been hyping anything. Like, you didn't hype this Walmart announcement. As far as I know, I mean, maybe there was some stuff in the Discord, but like as like a kind of a more casual observer, let's say, certainly people don't see this coming. So when, after acquiring Pudgys, did you make the decision that like we're not gonna hype?
So I was on the hype. I was Mr. Hype himself for a very long time.
Yes.
I think what happened is what happened over the last couple of months in the industry, and it's been a brutal beatdown. And so I think the best thing that you can do right now, one of the best decisions I think I've made since I took over this business, was the fact that we were going to start releasing a lot of things in June, and I knew everybody else was releasing things in June, and I was like, I'm just going to wait. There's no point in just overlapping and saturating. So what we basically did is we
got to watch everybody else hype their shit for June, have it totally not work, and then we're like, we're just gonna stay quiet. One small, very semantic question, but this is how my brain works. Success looks like selling out 75, 80%, but this whole new world opens up when you sell out of Walmart. Is that like if you sell 75, 80%, like when you sell 600,000 units or something, that's when we'll get a glimpse into the new world in the digital space? Probably
around there, right? Probably around there. We'll take, like, I know there's, God willing, we sell out in a week, which is just like, there's no movie or show to back that up. So it's almost like historically impossible. Then I totally misled the expectation, because we very much need at least 6 weeks to finish this. And I think when, prior to us cutting off, I think we were talking about, you'd briefly mentioned something. This is not an MMO RPG World of Warcraft type game. This is like as simple, as stupid and fun that it can get, but it's like very exploratory, and it's very creative, and it's very good. I will say. I think when you look at this product and you see what we did, and you look at our funding and you look at how quickly we did it, I think everyone who like will really just sit there for 5 minutes and be like, okay, there's no way Luca had more than 5 months to do this. There's no way they have like tens of millions of dollars to pour into this. So they must have gotten this done for probably $500,000 in 5 months, or, you know, $1 million to $500,000. Wow. Like there's no other way to put it. You're gonna see it, and I promise you, everyone that I've showed that like is allowed to be shown is always like, wow, how did you guys do that? Because everybody else, like we've talked to many gaming studios, just so you know, and everyone quoted me like $5 million on what we did. And I'm like, dude, you guys are just scheming. So you're going to see and this is going to, again, we have like many announcements from now to the end of the year. I think this is just a really big one that kicks it off. And I think just a huge moment for the industry, how I look at it. And sorry for going on a tangent, but I don't think you can point to 5 more meaningful moments in this industry has had. If you can, let me know. But I sat here and thought about it for a long time and thought, what is 5 more important moments in this that the NFT industry has had? Okay, like CryptoPunks, Bored Apes, Rolling Stone, Bored Ape Sotheby's, and then what? Like, there's nothing. There's this. Like, this is up there with the top 5, I think, most important moments.
I want to ask you about your time in Asia, because I know you've been spending a lot of time in Asia. You've been tweeting about that a little bit. But let me just ask this to try and wrap my own head around it. You said like 500,000 units or so of Pudgys via the Amazon program that you launched with that very adorable commercial, which I loved. And do you have a sense of how much of that was NFT holders versus non-holders buying through that?
It was probably like 75% holders versus, or probably
wild though that holders bought that much stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you could just assume. Okay, so I think the right answer. Let me give you the right answer. The right answer is I think about 80% of Web3 users bought it, right? And I think another 20% was sold through like hitting the algorithm and then just being like a penguin on the front page, pretty much, of Amazon. So I can't quantify holders. It's like impossible. The data tracking in Web3 is like god awful. There's no way to tell. But what I can say is I think 80% of that purchasing power was people who are in Web3 who bought through our Twitter, kind of looking at where the Amazon traffic came to. It was about like 75% of it from Twitter and then 25% from elsewhere. So you can kind of assume that was the delineation between revenue.
What's so interesting about that to me is when it's impressive. Like what's interesting about it to me is when I've talked to other projects, like let's call it during the bull market, who were talking to studios, who wanted to get movie deals, who wanted to get X, Y, or Z. They were sort of told, look, it's like great that you have 200,000 followers on Twitter and 90,000 people in your Discord, but like you have 5,000 holders. This just isn't impressive to us as a studio. And obviously it's not impressive to them as a studio. But there is a lot of power. This validates the idea that there's a lot of power in having like 5,000 super fans and then a slightly bigger audience of, let's call it Web3 people who are like behind you. Like, I really don't think that thesis, which was a very core Web3 thesis, has really been like fully validated in the past, to the degree that hearing that maybe 80% of 500,000 units sold on Amazon came from Web3.
Yeah,
that validates it more.
That, you know, one of the most fascinating parts about this industry, and it's the most underestimated part, is the purchasing power per user. It's like unlike anything you've ever seen. You know, you kind of look at, you know, certain projects and Minted and things like that, and you're like, you know, per user, per fan, like the average order value is like 10 grand. It's like insanity. You know, I mean, you just like look at the other side Mint, or, you know, Azuki's Mint they did recently, right? Like, think about that. Like, there's only a couple thousand people who were able to mint Azuki's Elementals Mint. Think about that. They made $40 million. There's probably what, $10, $15, $20,000 in purchasing power per user. I mean, it's insanity. And this is ultimately why I'm so confident this space will win, because when you look at it like from an artist and creator standpoint, or at least this really reigned true when royalties were still around. That's its own conversation that we won't get into. But the thing that made me so bullish about NFTs was just the lifetime value, or the cost per CPM that a creator got in this industry versus YouTube. You know, in this industry, If you're a creator and you have 1,000 eyeballs and 1,000 followers, you can be a millionaire. If you're a creator in Web 2 on YouTube, what do you make? $5? That's like the difference. If you kind of understand that, that is why, and creators bring eyeballs and that whole industry. So when it comes back, it'll come back in force. But I think that's the beautiful part about this.
Yeah, that's interesting. Did you make that argument? It sounds like Walmart was bought in for other reasons as well, but like, do you make that argument to these retailers, or like as you're having these conversations of just like the purchasing power here is crazy?
I think, part of the pitch is like, this isn't an affluent base. This is not like a base. When I say I have a diehard community, there's different incentives at play here versus some new brand who also claims they have a diehard community. I mean, I would take my 5,000 super fans and I'd put it up against some of the top super fans in the world across the top IPs in the world. And we might not be able to win, but we'd be able to compete, like we would be able to compete like per capita spend on collectibles, digital or physical, per like the latter. Obviously, there's still a lot of work to do, but I mean, if you just were to stack it up the odds against one another, it's a fight. There's definitely a fight to be made.
Yeah. Are these the pallets in Walmart? Like, is this also something you're going to be able to get on Walmart's website?
Yeah, you'll be able to, but they aren't lasting very long. I'll tell you that.
Okay. So part of this is a reliance on holders like going to their local Walmart is like part of the plan here.
So there's some exclusives, right? And so, at the end of the day, I can't depend, like I tell our community all the time, like, I think this is a moment where I think Web3 and crypto has stepped up to the plate. Like I'm a firm believer in that, because at the end of the day, like if you really just think about the industry in and of itself, this can push the industry 3 years forward. This thing moves, flies off the shelf, is a humongous success. Walmart's not going to come to me. They're going to come to me. They're going to come to Doodles. They're going to come to Cool Cats. They're going to come to all the different L1s. Those guys are going to do deals with L1s and L2s. And we're going to be back in a spot that we need to be in, right? Like, this is not just like a moment for Pudgy penguins. And, people shouldn't be listening to this. Like, I hope it doesn't work because I don't own a Pudgy penguin. I don't want it to work.
That would be a very strange perspective.
This is like a barrier breaking moment, and one that requires the whole industry to rally. It requires Ethereum maxis to rally. It requires Bitcoin maxis to rally, because again, this is not just the story of NFTs. It's not just an NFT thing. This is a blockchain thing. And point to any other situation or any scenario where you can stick your hand out and grab the blockchain. Like, as silly as that sounds, I know it's like gonna get memed through oblivion, but think about it, right? Can you think of any other consumer product good, especially on the shelf of any place meaningful, where you can stick your arm out and for $5, take it home, give it to a friend or a family member and say, experience the blockchain? Right? That's why I'm so passionate about this moment. That's why I think this moment is so big. It's because it's not just like toys on a shelf. It is not that. It is somebody's gateway into this world in the most seamless and unintimidating way possible for $5 freaking.
Well, where my head goes is not even, Walmart's going to go to insert all the other NFT projects here because you guys succeeded, because I think you have more proof points. You have the social, you have the Amazon sales, like you have things that some of these other projects, frankly, none of these other projects have, that make you appealing to Walmart. But it's ideally that Walmart goes to Mattel, or they go to, insert other totally traditional toy makers and say, hey, this like scan digital world opening thing worked really well. Our customers really liked it. Go integrate it into the next product you're making. And that's in some ways almost more exciting to me than even, as much as I want our NFT projects to succeed, but I don't really see that happening. I don't see Walmart, if you guys succeed, coming to Doodles necessarily. I mean, Doodles is great, but.
You hit it right on the head. Like you absolutely, and I love that you said this and kind of alluded to it previously in the conversation, but I am a firm believer that this is going to be the norm moving forward. And why it's going to be the norm is because if you really grasp what's going on here, the value proposition of being able to scan a physical product and unlock an NFT is a better value proposition than anything else on the shelf for the same price. It is a better value prop. And as long as that value proposition reigns true, It's going to provide more value to the consumer, and Walmart and other retailers are all about giving maximum value to the consumer. Right now, when you go and buy a Roblox toy and you get a Roblox skin, there's no intrinsic value outside of the fact that it's just a skin. With the ability of Web3 and NFTs, it's immutable. It's yours, just the same way that a t-shirt is. It's almost like a buy one, get one free, a BOGO without the cheapness of a BOGO and without selling your soul for a BOGO. It's a BOGO without a BOGO. You know what I mean? It's like a buy one, get another. Right?
You know what's so funny? I've said, many times recently in the podcast, it's funny, if you've been listening to this podcast since the beginning, you can watch the evolution of how Carly thinks NFTs and blockchain goes mainstream, and it's like, it started with ticketing and it's changed over time. And my latest thinking has been, digital twins of physical objects such that you get automatically. Right. And then that it's probably a younger generation, but I was thinking probably more like your age. I wasn't thinking kids, but are like, oh, now I have my sneaker in the digital. I have all these kind of digital things that I've just accrued naturally because of the physical things I was buying. Okay, now I want to go show them off. And now you have your kind of Instagram app or whatever it ends up being, where there's now context around your digital goods, because that's what NFTs are missing right now, is like the context, like who's looking, who cares. And this is what you're doing. And, maybe it does start, it's like the kids rule our world thing, which was the episode I did with Mattel. Like, it does start probably with 10-year-olds, and I was thinking it started with 20-year-olds, but it's probably even younger than that. And then it works its way up either as they age up. And so it's really exciting.
The problem with this industry today, Carly, is it's not a consumer-facing business.
Yeah.
It's not a consumer-facing industry. And right now, what I think we've optimized for and what, crypto and blockchain and NFTs have succeeded in is they succeeded in, speculators and institutional capital. And I think like those problems are pretty much solved with the, with the innovation of probably the next 5 years. Like those will be unequivocal solutions to problems. But I think if you want to hit escape velocity and you really want to go and hit the billions of people and really make this just the underlying foundation for everyone on the planet, which is ultimately, I hope, everyone's goal in this industry, whether you're in just blockchain infrastructure or making crypto tokens or NFT, entrepreneur, whatever that may be, like this has to be a consumer-facing industry if you want your industry to truly win. And right now it's not. And so what I really want to be for all of these, right, and really just blockchain in general, it's kind of how I bake it all into just blockchain technology. Like if you really want this to succeed and get the adoption that you want it to, it needs to be a consumer-facing business. And I think this is the first one of its kind for this tech that I think is truly consumer-facing. I think for the first time, you can bring people in for such a small amount of money via a vehicle that is a cute little pudgy penguin to get people excited and to love, something that's different. And I think this is what this is. This to me is the first lever and the first proof of concept to what I think is blockchain's first ever true consumer-facing product. And I'm not talking consumer-facing product like Coinbase. Sure, Coinbase is a consumer-facing product.
Yeah.
Facing for what? For trading coins?
Right.
Great. We're just going down that rabbit hole again. We're talking about accessibility. We're talking about ownership. We're talking about the ethos that this technology really empowers. This is the first ever moment, I think, for this. And so to me, this isn't just a, hey, Pudgy Penguin holders, go support this. This isn't a, hey, do you like Pudgy Penguins? Hey, go support this. This is like, hey, do you believe in accessibility? Do you believe in ownership? Do you believe in crypto? Do you believe in the blockchain? Do you believe in these things? Because if you do, you've got to believe in what we're doing here. And you've got to try to support that. And it's not like these things are $1,000 and I'm asking you to go buy NFTs. Go buy your niece, your nephew, your son, or a daughter a Pudgy Penguin toy. It's not going to kill anybody. It costs $5,
Yeah. That would be a beautiful, rousing speech to end this podcast on. But if you have the time, I just want to ask you about your takeaways from your time in Asia.
Yeah.
That's the question. So go ahead. I would just want to know, you were in Singapore, Korea. I think you guys did a whole trip. So what were your insights?
Yeah, I did Tokyo. I did Korea. I did Singapore, and I did Malaysia. And across my journey, I met with some of the biggest and best companies in those respective areas, from the Sanrios, the Bandais, to the Lottes, to the SoftBanks, to the, to anything that you could possibly.
Wow, Mayoshi-san, is he going to be, are we getting Pudgy backed Mayoshi something. Is that how I pronounce his name?
I just pervade, or it's not the right word. I just got them familiar, I think is the word.
Yeah. Making that first kind of introductory conversation happen. Smart.
And what I garnered there is a couple things. One, Asia is really where it's at, and I thought my whole life it was always the East. They are so much more advanced than us. It's incredible. Two, the culture and the people are beautiful. Absolutely fell in love. Three, it's where character brands go to thrive. Mm-hmm. I fell in love with Tokyo in a way that I think is really close to my heart, and I was only there for 5 days. The Pudgy Penguin is going to really hit its escape velocity if we succeed in Asia. And based on the reaction that I got in Asia, I'm ever more confident in this. Cute runs the world when it comes to IP. It just does. The total addressable market for cute IP versus the rest is like not even close. You have cute and then you have everything else. Cute sells the most. It has the most collectors. It has the most connoisseurs. It has the most passionate user base. You can't deny that. If you try to deny that, the proof is in the pudding. Just look at most valuable IPs and compare the cool stuff to the cute stuff, and you'll see that I'm right. And Asia literally lives and dies by cute. I think, based on kind of what I read, there's an Asian woman in Asia that doesn't own something cute, right? It just doesn't exist. And so the reaction around the Pudgy Penguin was fascinating. I mean, when I went to Tokyo and I met with these major conglomerates, and I showed them the penguin, and they have this thing in Tokyo called kawaii, and they would just freak out and be like, "What's so kawaii?" And they would just freak. And I thought to myself, I was like, this is the user base. These are the people that are really going to love this Pudgy Penguin the way that I know it deserves to be loved and cared about. Like they just care about it so much more. I also compared Penguin, our character, to the rest, and I think we have a really interesting competitive edge against the latter. I think there's a very unique style to Asia, and I think that style is getting saturated and overused. And I think the Penguin is different and unique. Really stand out there, which I think is great from a competitive edge standpoint. Our community is huge there. I had no idea. And they're so passionate. They go above and beyond. They are really the best examples of what it is to be a Pudgy Penguin community member and digital ecosystem owner. And I'm so grateful to be, leading this charge and leading that community. And I think ultimately I need to take Asia even more seriously than I thought. And I thought I could be hands off and throw some of the team members on there. And I think that's going to be a grave mistake if I do it. And so leaving there, I thought to myself, I personally need to be boots on the ground. I personally need to be in the trench because, even thinking from a crypto and blockchain and, digital collectible perspective, this is where that next wave of capital is going to come from. Mm-hmm. It's not going to come from the West, I don't think. Obviously, they'll be there. But I think the flood is going to happen from the East. And I think there's nobody more well-positioned than us to capture that, inflow of capital, but also that excitement of a new consumer base that is now just getting the floodgates opening or the restrictions lifted from them being able to participate in this culture in the past. It's now being slowly but surely alleviated. And so it is very, very important. It is very magical to me. And it is something that I think ultimately is going to, determine whether the fact that is Pudgy Penguin going to be $1 billion brand or a $10 billion brand. And I think our success in Asia is going to dictate that.
Wow. Are you thinking are you like going to move, or are you just going to split your time?
I think I have to split my time. I got to stay true to the American soil, but I've got to go over there, and I've got to be there, and it got to be a place that I visit a lot more frequently.
Awesome. Luca, this was so fun as always. I honestly want to have you come back just to talk more about how you're thinking about approaching Asia, because that could obviously be an entire podcast episode and probably 6 podcast episodes in and of themselves. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited for Pudgys. I'm really grateful for you coming on and breaking this down for us, and coming at a Walmart near you now. They're live now, or when do they go live?
Yeah, they're live now.
Live now. Go to your local Walmart. Luca, thank you so much. This was so fun.
Thank you, Carly.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Overpriced JPEGs. If you liked this conversation, if you liked this episode, please go ahead and hit subscribe. It helps me out, it helps the show out, and it means you will get alerts and updates when we post new content. Thanks again.